What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Elder Scrolls Lore, and today, before we begin, I'd like to say thank you to Aries for allowing me to use his music, and I'd also like to make a shout out to the podcast I now have with Imperial Knowledge, HB and Kuyo of HP Productions, and with occasion Kukai, and we have a special guest every week. I say every week, I mean every episode. And with that, I hope you guys enjoy. We talk about lore, gaming, and pretty much some community questions that come up. And with that being said, I'd also like to announce that I do have 2 community recommended topics coming up, and they are coming. Just these are the videos that are being recorded first, because I yet to get footage for the current topics that have been recommended. With that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this video. I've been really enjoying the cities aspect, and I plan to go to Morrowind later on after this, Morrowind being the next province. And with that, I hope you enjoy. This is the City of Solitude. Solitude is one of the 9 major cities of the province of Skyrim, and it's the capital of both the Harfingar region and West Skyrim. Solitude has been known as a flourishing metropolis within the blessed arms of the Empire of Cyrodiil, having ties with the Septim Empire especially. Comparatively, Solitude is one of the biggest cities in all of Skyrim, and is built with a very peculiar landscape. Solitude was built on a rather large arch on top of the Karth River estuary, where the river meets the Sea of Ghosts and the Drakmir Marsh. I won't lie, it took me so many times I kept saying desert for some reason. Now, the area of Solitude is not flat. Rather, on the edge of the Kilcreath Highlands is the Drumak Mountains. Lower Solitude consists of a port and the main headquarters of the East Empire Trading Company, the Third Empire's major trading company. Shocking, right, with the name? The central warehouse is vast and can house several trading ships. The road to the northernmost point of Harfingar goes directly over the warehouse water entrance and underneath the Grand Arch of Solitude. The local stables of Solitude are located in between the ports and the road leading into the central city. Solitude's outer gate is heavily fortified, with the Sky Tower being the first line of defense for the city. Upper Solitude is divided into 3 separate districts, each with unique distinctions and serving different purposes. The Merchants District in West Solitude is home to several local businesses as well as the main gate of the city. The Winking Skeever is one of the more successful inns located in Solitude due to its convenient location being near the main gate and the town square. Southeast of the inn, is the town square, where various smaller businesses gather to sell their daily catch of fish or their signature wines. The Radiant Remnant specializes in selling the most exquisite clothing for nobles of the Third Empire and the Kingdom of Solitude. The area, called Castle Dower, is where the military forces of Solitude reside, as well as the Temple of the Divines. The Imperial Legion of Skyrim is currently stationed at Castle Dower. The Temple of the Divines in Solitude is perhaps the biggest temple of the Divines in the entire province, with the shrines dedicated to each of the 9 Divines, with the exception of Talos in the 4th Era, where they removed the idol. Sometime during the War of Succession, Olaf One-Eye fought the dragon Numenex and defeated him on the summit of Mount Anthor. Olaf was able to end the war by becoming the High King and conquering the other cities to quell the conflict and establish his reign. Solitude was the last city to fall from Olaf's armada. The details of the siege of Solitude are currently left unknown, but left a terrible taste for the Bard's College and the Kingdom of Solitude. Svaknir was a notable bard from Solitude who wrote a rather scathing poem about the rise of Olaf One-Eye, which led to his ultimate demise and vendetta with the High King. The aftermath of the battle created a tradition in Solitude called the Burning of King Olaf, which occurs on every 14th of Hearthfire. The tradition has been going on for years and into the 4th Era. Now, we've gone over this quite some time with other videos, and we kind of do a summary each time with it because it happens with every city-state here. Now, during the 2nd Era, during the reign of the Akaviri Potentate, the City of Solitude was under the rule of King Svatir, who was a well-respected Jarl among the people of Skyrim. When High King Logruf was assassinated, many people felt that Freydis, the daughter of Logruf, should become High Queen of Skyrim, and the Crown of Verity actually chose her as well. However, Svatir claimed that Freydis was an illegitimate heir to the throne and that the moot was needed to decide who could be the proper leader. The Crown of Verity has always been the deciding factor for the High King, or Queen, ever since the reign of Olaf One-Eye in the aftermath of the War of Succession. However, this moot was used for Svatir's advantage, and he would become the next High King, and soon controversy arose about who should be the next leader. This event would divide Skyrim in two, splitting East and West Skyrim. Now, we can get into it, but really, the only thing that's new about this is Svatir's rule to bring about trouble. One such instance with his rise to power was Yashnag's chieftain found in western Falkreath. It was quelled by Hakvild Yashnag Slayer, that's a name right there, who drove them back to Wolfgar. Now, Svatir's dynasty ruled from the City of Solitude, which is considered the capital of western Skyrim. During the reign of Uriel Septim II, the City of Solitude was under the rule of King Montiarco and Queen Amodetha, both of whom had a child named Prince Bothro. Amodetha had passed away, and relations between the Kingdom of Solitude and the Septim Empire had begun to wane, especially with Uriel II's loan to Montiarco, which was used to quell the rebellion in the city of Torval. To compensate, Uriel Septim II forced Potema Septim, a young Septim at the age of 14, to be wedded to Montiarco, much to the dismay of her. When Potema became the Queen of Solitude, she had a lot of opposition from the old Nordic houses, and had a disdained relationship with Prince Bothro. Regardless, Potema made valuable allies, including Lord Volkan, and further instated her rule over Solitude. At the age of 14, Potema gave birth to Uriel Septim III, who was named after her late grandfather. Shortly after Uriel's birth, Bothro had completed the Tournament of Stamina and awaited the ceremony to crown him the victor. However, it was revealed earlier that Bothro was not a descendant of Montiarco. Amodetha had an affair with Lord Thone, an affair which ultimately led to his death, and Bothro's banishment from Solitude. Uriel II had passed away sometime after Potema's wedding, bringing Potema's father, Pelagius Septim II, into power as the Emperor of Tamriel. He would pass away, possibly due to poison, and Antiochus Septim, Potema's brother, ascended to the throne. Montiarco would eventually pass away from old age. Potema was given an amulet from her mother, Queen Quintilla of Camlorn, which has a soul gem infused with the spirit of a demon werewolf. Potema took it and wore it, giving her the ability to charm those who she speaks to. Potema entered Antiochus's bedchamber in the Blue Palace, where he had just fornicated with an Argonian wench. Potema planned to blackmail Antiochus with a letter saying that Antiochus knew his father was not Pelagius II, but a steward, claiming that he was a false heir to the throne. Potema would reveal the letter to be public if Antiochus did not step down as emperor. However, Antiochus was more clever than Potema and anticipated this, so he instead showed a practice sheet where Potema tried to mimic Antiochus's handwriting. Potema's attempt in blackmailing Antiochus had failed, but she was determined to becoming empress of the empire. With the death of Montiarco, Uriel III assumed the throne of Solitude and had done so since the 9 years of Montiarco's death. Potema has ruled as Uriel's regent and has guided him through his reign as King of Solitude. Potema's influence had spread beyond and through the Kingdom of Solitude, and by befriending the kings of Skyrim and even the kingdoms of High Rock and Morrowind, with essential friendships with Ebonheart and Faerun. With the power of her amulet, she was able to start a war between King Orgrim of Pandonia and the Sigic Order of Artium, under the lore master Celeris. This conflict was known as the War of the Isle, and it crippled the Pandonian Armada. In 112 of the Third Era, Emperor Antiochus passed away through unknown circumstances, coincidentally when Potema and Uriel III had visited the Imperial City Palace. Now, I'm not going to get into the entire War of the Red Diamond because I've already covered it in a previous video of mine, aka the War of the Red Diamond. But to summarize it, essentially, Potema was forced to retreat back to Solitude, and all her allies had left her, and despite winning a couple battles, she lost a majority of them. The siege of Solitude had left the Kingdom of Solitude ransacked and desolate. Sepphoris and Magnus's armies were besieging the city, and the war was soon coming to an end. In Inner Solitude, towards the castle, had become a battlefield, while the Wells district of Solitude was slowly redeveloping. Pelagius Septim III was wandering the streets of Solitude when he arrived into the Solitude Mages Guild. There an old lady approached him, complimenting his young looks and giving him a strange amulet. Pelagius III gladly took it and wore it around his neck. The old lady would then vanish, and this would be Potema Septim, who returned to her quarters where she died with a toothless grin on her face. Solitude was captured, and the war had finally ended. Pelagius III would ascend the throne as King of Solitude. So Pelagius III was crowned King of Solitude, and with this, that amulet that was given to him by Potema would slowly drive him insane. And this Magnus would begin to show, because he would indeed lock the princes and princesses of Silvanar in their rooms and shoved a declaration of war underneath their door. He would also tear off his clothes in public gatherings like festivals and say jarring speeches. By the order of Magnus Septim, Pelagius III would marry Cattria Rahathim, a beautiful dark elf from the city of Ebonheart. The reason for this marriage was to establish relationships with Ebonheart, who had a very well-known allegiance with Potema Septim during the war. Cattria was a shrewd politician and governed Pelagius III's kingdom while her husband was going insane. When Sepphoris died, Magnus Septim became the emperor, but was very old and eventually passed away, leaving the throne to Pelagius III and Cattria. Pelagius' sister, Gelothi Drenni, became the Queen of Solitude and managed to keep a healthy kingdom within Skyrim. By the time Pelagius III was emperor for a couple years, he had a wide variety of stories describing his madness. One such example is when Pelagius III gained the crown, he fainted on the throne, and Cattria had to hold him up so the people did not know he had fainted. Pelagius' madness made him infamous throughout the Septim Empire, giving him the nickname Pelagius the Mad, and he was taken to several different asylums throughout the Empire, ranging from one in Valenwood to another in Torval. While in the Imperial Palace, Pelagius III would sometimes attack visitors, and he would have a crazed obsession with cleanliness. Cattria ruled in his place and proved to be an exceptional leader, easily one of the greatest ones to ever grace the Empire. Rumor has it that Cattria had an affair with her consort, Galavir Lyriat, who hailed from the city of Shornhelm. But alas, Cassander Septim, the child of Pelagius III and Cattria, assumed the Ruby Throne, and Pelagius III would die in the Temple of Kinrith on the Isle of Bethany. In the waning years of the Third Era, near the Oblivion Crisis, the City of Solitude was under the control of King Thane, and through his reign, Solitude became an incredibly powerful kingdom, way more than it was before. Thane had the ambition to control the northern coast of Skyrim and to expand his territory to island fiefdoms of the Sea of Ghosts. Thane would marry Queen Marsala, not really sure yet, from the Kingdom of Dawnstar, hope one of you correct me on that one, to further establish the relations of northern Skyrim. Through Thane and Marsala, the Solitude garnered control of the imperial fiefs like the Isle of Roscree and other territories that Uriel Septim V had captured before his conquest of Akavir. Now Thane would fund these expeditionary journeys through the Sea of Ghosts to find more islands and thus finding more settlements. During the Great War from 171 to 175 of the Fourth Era, the High King of Skyrim was Istold, who ruled from the City of Solitude rather from the city of Winterhold, which is where the High King usually resides. With the Great Collapse, the capital of Skyrim was moved to Solitude, and the High King had ruled there ever since. Istold managed to keep the province thriving when the Third Empire suffered from the Third Aldmeri Dominion. Istold eventually passed away, causing a moot to choose the next successor. That successor came from his son Torrig. Torrig would marry Elisif the Fair and rule the province for several years until 201 of the Fourth Era. Despite the declining power of the Empire after the Great War, Torrig was a supporter of the Empire and served them well in their name of rebuilding, but many Nords of Skyrim would find this disillusioned, and they sought to separate themselves from their captors, or in a sense the people that had continuously conquered and reigned over them. So With this, there was shouts of rebellion and revolt and separation. However, they were never public, they were more private. But one of the Nords, Jarl Ulfric Stormcloak of Windhelm, was heavily against the White Gold Concordat, which banned the worship of Talos, who was considered a hero among the Nords of Skyrim. In the moot that made Torygg the High King, Ulfric spoke about Skyrim's independence in terms just shy of treason. Regardless of this, Torygg had high respect towards Ulfric, but feared taking on the Dominion on their own. In 201 of the Fourth Era, Ulfric traveled to Solitude to gain an audience with Torygg. There is an old Nordic tradition called the traditional Nordic duel, where a duel is fought to determine the new High King. It's never specified whether these duels are lethal or not, though in the previous duel the bested survived. Now, whatever the case, Ulfric challenged Torygg to this duel, and as High King, Torygg could not refuse, as it would cause for a new moot to meet. The duel ended swiftly as Ulfric killed Torygg, by some accounts with a Thu'um, by Ulfric's account with his sword, after he had shouted Torygg to the ground. Following the death of Torygg, Ulfric fled to Windhelm, and the Skyrim Civil War began. So, during the Skyrim Civil War, in the same year of 201 of the Fourth Era, several shady figures had begun to spring up in the City of Solitude. One of such was a group of necromancers that were located out of Wolfskull Cave near the township of the Dragon Bridge. Here is where people tried to resurrect Potema Septim and bring her back to life as a specter or a ghost. However, there was a warrior who was unnamed, who was supposedly the Thane of Solitude, who was ordered under Folk Firebeard and Elisif the Fair to end this event. Now, that is all I have for the City of Solitude. This is probably the other major city we're going to cover, except for Windhelm, probably the biggest of the two, probably the biggest of the 9 holds, or the 9 cities is going to be Windhelm and Solitude. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Upcoming in terms of the cities, we're going to have Markarth, and I believe Falkreath is coming up. Or no, Markarth and Whiterun are coming up next. So with that, I hope you guys enjoy. Remember, there are 2 recommended topics that are coming up as well, so please stay tuned. If you have any recommended topics, please let me know in the comments below or in the Discord chat. The link is in the header and the description. It'd be much easier to contact me that way. And with that, I will see you guys around in the next video. Peace.